Hello and welcome to Round Robin. I'm your host, Robin McCormick with the City of Hampton's Communications and Marketing Department. And today we have one of Hampton's extraordinary high school students with us. Actually, she'll be a graduate any minute now. But I think we've spotlighted some kids who've had great academic success, and this is an art success and a writing success. My guest is Rachel Kilgore. Welcome, Rachel.
Hello.
You came to our attention because you did a senior mentorship project with the American Theater. So Jeff Stern is here as well.
Hi.
And, but it wasn't necessarily in performing. You think of students in the arts, people stereotypically think of performing, but you're a writer.
Yes. When I applied for the mentorship program at Kecoughtan, because you have to apply to get in, I put in for creative writing, and we couldn't really find anything. And then I mentioned that I was really involved with theater, and so we ended up working down at the American Theater, which turned out to be pretty good.
Turned out to be pretty good. It did. And you said you started, helping maybe decorate the building for Christmas and doing some typical intern tasks. We always, start you small and figure out what you can do. But Jeff, how did you figure out what she could do?
Well, a couple of things. When the application came across my desk, it was new to us at the American Theater, and myself being new in the position, I wondered whether I would take on a high school mentorship.
You never know. You're like, gee whiz, it's going to be a lot of work, and am I going to get a lot out of it? And
it
is
really
the
is
person
true.
really
What I
ready?
liked so much about the letter that Rachel wrote is how she was just interested in trying to tell a story. She wasn't sure whether theatrical playwriting was for her, but she was very interested in telling a story. And of course, as we've talked about many times before, art is all about storytelling. Mm-hmm. And so we met with Rose Blevins, who runs that program at Kecoughtan High School and does a terrific job placing a lot of different students around the community. And we connected. I understood what she was looking for, and in she came, and we started slow, but picked up steam, and finally got to a point where her performance was performed in front of her family and friends, so it was good.
So that's just amazing to me, that as a high school student, you ended up writing a one-act play.
Yes.
And you starred in it.
I read it, yes. Mm-hmm.
and helped get it performed at the American Theater, right?
Yeah, that's right. We started different ways. One of the first assignments that we worked on together was actually reading a scene, a popular scene, what I think is a popular scene from a play called Raisin in the Sun, which I don't think Rachel had ever seen performed before.
Nope.
And then take those characters after she finishes reading the scene, not knowing the rest of the play, and trying to flesh out what happens next. Write scenes about what's next, and we started creative projects like that.
Oh, that's a cool way to go. Mm-hmm. I like that.
Mm-hmm. And the other project you could probably talk a little more about, I took her over to the Charles H. Taylor Art Center and had her write a review of the Glass Show.
Which, that was fun because I got to walk around and look at all the work, and then we did a couple things. I wrote a poem about the glass, which I don't really do poetry, so that was kind of interesting.
It's a good exercise, though, in poetry, because you have to really not use very many words. So you think about each word a lot.
It was interesting. And then wrote up a review about the whole exhibit, which was fun, because I'd never really written, a review of anything. And then we did a small, prompt assignment where I picked a piece that I was really interested in, and then the prompt was, imagine finding it after some sort of disaster and civilization is gone, and then describe the piece, but don't really say what it is, not really knowing what it is, and sort of describing it from that aspect or viewpoint, which was cool.
That's good. So her work must have impressed you.
It was terrific, and writing as she wrote about in Diversions, which I thought was terrific. She mentioned that she sits alone in a room at the American Theater, which was true. She would come in, and the first thing she would do is just almost, like any teenager, ask for my keys to open up the room where her computer was at the American Theater and go down and sit and write. And she was very dedicated to it, worked very hard. And then we got to a point where we really thought, well, we're going to take a shot at a theatrical piece. And then I asked her to think about what themes, and she can talk about how she hit on the theme for the show.
So how did this come about?
I was sitting in my room, as usual, just kind of pondering over kind of something that I would want to write. And then I ended up thinking about if fate and free will were people, what kind of thing would they argue about? What would happen between the two of them? Because clearly they would argue because they're kind of opposite things. And it was I say it was heavily influenced by Greek drama because we were kind of reading that in school at the time I was coming up with it. So, and I just sort of went from there and fleshed out characters and let them go.
It was interesting when she gave me the first draft. We sat in my office and we read it, and I said, "Oh, I see. This is a child struggling against parents and that kind of whole kind of who's controlling my life? Do I have control of my own life?" And she turned right to me and she said, "That's not what it's about at all." And so,
But I can see elements of that. Your parents are fate; they're the dictating, and you are the free will.
But as an author, and I think that was an interesting part of the entire process, is as an author, there's something in your mind, and how you're communicating it is really determined almost exclusively by what people bring to the work. I had that own particular viewpoint myself, so I just applied that to the words.
Right.
So it was very interesting as we went through that process then and refined it so that she could better make sure that folks like me didn't do that again for her work. And I think she did a good job with that. And then her voice was in the performance. She was actually one of the characters, disembodied characters in the piece.
So which one were you?
Well, there was the two characters. There was the one that was fate and the one that was free will, but I needed one to kind of bridge the gap. So I just created another character and I named her Fortuna. And she never really had to appear in the script at all. So she was kind of like this disembodied voice that shows up every now and then and speaks and then leaves. And so that ended up being me. It recorded it beforehand and then just hit play whenever I needed to say a line.
Now, how come you recorded it? You thought you were nervous?
Yeah, and it worked better that way, I think.
And when you said you were in theater before, you were mostly behind the scenes.
Yeah.
You were doing sets and
Painting,
and
painting, getting props, getting sets, moving them around, and organizing like the crew to keep them in line.
So being on the stage, even if it was recorded, was a little bit different for you.
Yes.
Do you like the writing part or do you like the stage part?
I definitely like writing.
You want to go back to being on
Yes.
this.
I don't mind doing backstage. I like it, but I just don't act. I just don't do the acting thing.
So who did the two parts? You did one of them.
Well, that's actually a very funny story. Although on the day of the show, it was not funny for many of us. So I was going to play one of the characters, and someone else at the theater was going to play the other, but her mother took ill. So we went to find a replacement, and we found one, but on the day of the show, the replacement couldn't make it either.
15 minutes before.
15 minutes before.
No.
So we have an intern named Joe Riley, and he's in from his first year of college, and he's interning with us for the summer. And I turned to Joe and said, "You're going to play the other part." Now, the other part's a woman, but that happens. In Shakespeare's day, only men played women. And as a staged reading, it worked out just fine. We didn't change the names. Rachel said it would be too difficult to change the names and work through that, so we just kept it the way it was. And I think the audience understood the intent of what it was. We explained it to them beforehand, but the show must go on. Yeah. And as an author, you learn it as well, that whatever it takes to get the show up when it has to go.
That's interesting. So who came to your show, Rachel?
My
Your
English teacher, well, yeah, my family, but my English teacher and for English 12, for AP English, there's two teachers, and they both sort of had the English Honor Society, so they brought everyone from the English Honor Society, which was interesting.
The room was filled. We did it in the lecture hall, and it was filled to capacity.
She brought everyone, and she made it extra credit, so some of my other friends came, which was interesting.
Were you not telling them about it? Were you trying to just sneak this in and be done with it?
A little bit.
That's a good question.
A little bit, because I didn't really want all my friends to come, but a lot of them did, which was fine. It ended up being pretty fun because we stayed after a little bit and talked, and then it turned out pretty good.
Good. What was their reaction?
They all said they really liked it, so that's good.
It is good.
We had a question and answer session afterwards, so people got to ask the author all the questions about what this meant and why she did this and why she chose that, and that was very interesting.
That is so cool. All right, so what's in the future for you? You've already had this extraordinary experience in high school. Now what?
All I know is that I'm going to William & Mary in the fall. And I've been to the theater there a couple times and I really liked it. So I don't know if I'm going to go the theater route or if I'm going to go English creative writing or if I'm going to change my mind completely.
Well, that's the great thing about college. You get at least those first 2 years. As long as you're in the liberal arts field and taking what you need to take, that's the time to test it out and experiment and see.
And for us, Rachel's experience has meant that we've dovetailed with members of the community. Our new season is announced, and I'm sure everybody's taken a look at it.
I haven't seen that yet.
One
I
of
can't
the
wait.
things, is a new series called the Lighthouse Series, where we're welcoming a lot of local artists into the American theater. And one of the groups is from the venue on 35th, where they host the Virginia Playwrights Forum. And the forum was very interested in what Rachel was doing and said, if you have senior mentors or other writers in the future, we would like to work directly with them as well or help out. And so we'll offer that. Hopefully there are other writers who are watching this, other young students, either in high school or otherwise, who would like to get involved, and there are ways to do that now. And that's all really thanks to Rachel reaching out to us and making the first experience so positive for so many.
That's wonderful. You've opened the door for other students. That's a very cool thing.
I think so.
Great. Okay, well, good luck. And when
Thank you.
write a play or a novel or short stories or wherever you end up going in the future, you have to let us know.
I will.
Okay. Good luck at William and Mary.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank
absolutely.
you.
Thank you.
And thank you for working with Rachel and giving her this experience and opening the door for other students. I think the way you and the American Theater are connecting with the public is going to just open up the arts to more young people, more old people, more people in the middle, for a lot of us who enjoy
It's meant to
this.
do that. That's at the heart what it's meant to do. So we were thrilled to work with Rachel. I was personally. It was just a terrific experience.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank you.
And thank you for watching. I know that an awful lot of time we hear stories about young people gone awry, and it's important to spotlight the number of young people in this community that are doing amazing things here and will go off to college and I'm sure do amazing things there. Thank you for watching.